Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Canada begins helping Canadians leave Israel on chartered flights. More than 500 have vacated the region since the conflict between Israel and Iran began nearly 2 weeks ago. Plus, Prime Minister Mark Carney in Europe for the NATO summit. He's expected to announce an increase in defense spending. And U.S. President Donald Trump shocks reporters with an F-bomb when asked about the Middle East ceasefire. Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney says no Canadian troops were hurt at the U.S. base in Qatar, targeted by Iranian missiles Monday. Canada has begun helping Canadians leave Israel, and a chartered flight with more than 100 aboard is set to leave Jordan this evening. Global Affairs Canada has helped more than 500 Canadians in the region since the conflict between Israel and Iran began nearly 2 weeks ago. A fragile ceasefire between the warring sides appeared to hold today after initially faltering. Carney calls the military action a diplomatic move and says it leaves the door open for diplomacy. Prime Minister Carney is in Europe for the NATO summit, where he says Canada will reach an even higher NATO spending target as it develops its critical minerals. Canada is expected to announce a further increase in defense spending, but how high will it go? Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley weighs in.
They're looking at 3.5%. That would be pretty much tripling what Canada has spent in the last couple of years. Within the next few, we would be tripling our defense spending and then having another whole piece of supporting industries related to defense. So there's going to be a lot of changes. We have not come close to 5% of GDP on defense since 1960, the height of the Cold War, when we had bases in Germany and elsewhere. We don't have any of that anymore. Under the Liberals in the 1960s, first with Lester Pearson, then Pierre Trudeau, defense spending just went down, never, ever recovered.
You can catch that full interview with political commentator Brian Lilley coming up right after business news. Well, it's been quite a day for U.S. President Donald Trump, first being criticized for some spicy language to reporters and later being praised by the head of NATO at the NATO summit in Netherlands. It all started this morning as Trump was leaving the White House to head to the summit. He was asked by reporters about the Iran breaking the ceasefire shortly after Trump announced it.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
And while dropping an F-bomb to reporters directly may be a first, this isn't the first time a president has used foul language. While surveying hurricane damage in 2022, U.S. President Joe Biden was overheard using the F word, but his back was to the cameras. Also, former Vice President Dick Cheney was caught cursing on a hot mic at least once, and presidential historians say many presidents were known to curse now and then, including Truman, Johnson, and especially Nixon. And one time, even President Jimmy Carter dropped an F-bomb. Just goes to show that they are all human. Statistics Canada says inflation held steady at 1.7% for the month of May. The agency says smaller increases in shelter costs, such as rent and mortgages, are a big factor keeping inflation lower. Stats Can points to Ontario, saying the province saw some rental price relief from slower population growth and a jump in a new supply compared with last spring. The death of the consumer carbon price also adds to the cooling of annual inflation at the gas pumps. Saskatchewan's consumer watchdog says there's an impersonation scam going around on social media about the Prime Minister. The Financial and Consumer Affairs Authority of Saskatchewan says fake news articles claim Mark Carney is endorsing online trading platforms called Invest Canada and Big Profit Pulse. It says those platforms are not registered with the authority, and it's cautioning people against sending money to them. It says scammers often create fake news articles to lure people into giving away their money. Today, on his Truth Social platform, Trump shared a private message from Secretary General Mark Rutte, praising Trump for driving the military alliance to an important moment for America, Europe, and the world. Rutte was asked if he's bothered by Trump sharing the message publicly.
But I have absolutely no problem with that, because there's nothing in it which had to stay secret.
And what do you say about allegations that you're trying to please Donald Trump a little bit too much?
But look what is inside my text message to him. When it comes to the 2%, delivering the 2%, without him, it would never have happened this year, let's be honest. Beginning of this year, 7 countries were saying, well, maybe somewhere in 2031, 2032. All these 7, 8 countries are now at 2%. And when it comes to the 5%, we have to do this because of the capability targets. We have to keep ourselves safe from the Russians. But the good news is that it's also equalizing what we are spending here in Europe and Canada with what the US is spending.
It's a bit humiliating to have to explain this exchange with your allies, isn't it?
No, absolutely no problem. No, there is nothing in it which had to stay secret. No, thanks.
But shouldn't it be a NATO victory more than a Trump victory?
It's both.
But why did you not say both to the president?
Well, he knows, but I mean, without him, he would never have reached 2% this year. Never, forget it. And then when it comes to the 5% and the new spending target, of course we have to do it because of keeping ourselves safe here. But do you really think, if Donald Trump would not have been president, that tomorrow he would get to the 5%? Are you really thinking that? I'm not.
Meantime, our Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says Canada will hit the spending threshold of 2% of GDP by the end of the fiscal year. As for the higher 5% target, she says the question is really about the 2029 timeline that some allies have suggested and whether that is achievable. In other news, the chair of the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board says the heroic actions of the crew aboard Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 ensured everyone survived the terrifying incident last year when the door plug panel flew off the plane shortly after takeoff in January 2024.
I firmly believe there's one reason Flight 1282 averted catastrophe, and one reason only: the crew. Using supplemental oxygen, the flight attendants ran up and down the aisle to check on passengers, never forgetting the most vulnerable on board: 3 lap children and 4 unaccompanied minors, one of whom was just 6 years old. He had turned 6 just about a week before, and it was his first time flying. When every second counts, as it did on Flight 1282, training to the point of muscle memory is paramount. In this case, the crew knew precisely what to do. They acted without hesitation, and it saved lives. And yet the crew shouldn't have had to be heroes, because this accident never should have happened.
American transportation safety officials say systemic failures led to a door plug panel flying off the Alaska Airlines flight last year. An NTSB investigation found the bolts securing the Boeing 737's door plug panel were removed but never replaced during repair. Both Boeing and the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration have improved training and processes since the incident, but the NTSB says they need to do more. Turning our eyes to Western Canada, the Alberta NDP won 2 of the 3 provincial by-elections held Monday. Party leader Naheed Nenshi easily won in Edmonton-Strathcona. Gurtig Singh Brar won for the NDP in Edmonton-Ellerslie, and Tara Sawyer won Olds Three Hills Didsbury for the UCP. Nenshi says voters have sent a message.
Voters are rejecting the UCP's failures. Voters sent a clear message tonight The UCP doesn't have a plan for a better future, but Alberta's New Democrats do. I think our team has done an incredible job in the House, especially this spring, holding the government's feet to the fire on the corrupt care scandal. So we're not letting them escape with anything. We're not letting them get away with a thing. So we're using this as an opportunity to tell this government that as entitled as they think they are, as much as they take Albertans for fools, Albertans are not fools, and we won't let them get away with it. I've been acting in this role for a whole year, in those 24/7, 365 kind of way. And so I guess deep inside, I get to be an MLA now. It means I get a parking spot at the legislature. But in reality, I think I've been doing this job for a whole year. And I'm just really grateful for the people of Edmonton Strathcona to put us up on the next step.
And she says that next step is winning the next provincial election. When we return, we'll have more of the top stories from the West with Forum Daily West. Premier Danielle Smith has unveiled the group of people who will make up the Alberta Next panel, a panel the Premier says will discuss solutions to provide feedback to government on how Alberta can better protect its interests, defend its economy, and assert its place in Confederation. Smith says, first and foremost, the panel will tour the province this summer and listen to Albertans.
This will be done through a province-wide series of town halls with both in-person and virtual options beginning in July and wrapping up in October. We're also launching an online survey to ensure every Albertan can make their voice heard. The Alberta Next panel will put Albertans in the driver's seat. It will give them the rightful opportunity to decide how Alberta can become stronger and more sovereign within a united Canada. It will give the people who live, work, and raise families in our great province the opportunity to share their voices, their values, and their ideas. What we hear will help us map out Alberta's future.
One of the questions to be discussed in a referendum on Alberta separation, although Smith has already said she wouldn't initiate one herself. Some of the 13 panel members include former Alberta Court of Appeal Justice Bruce McDonald, Trevor Tombe from the University of Calgary, School of Public Policy, and the president of the Business Council of Alberta, Adam Legge. Alberta's Auditor General has been granted his request for extra funding to dig deeper into allegations of corruption in private healthcare contracts. Doug Wiley says the scope and complexity of the probe means his office needs nearly an extra $1 million to hire additional help and cover legal costs. Members from both the United Conservative Party, government, and opposition NDP who sit on the legislature committee that approved the request say Wiley is doing important work. His investigation began earlier this year as a result of allegations made by the former head of Alberta's Provincial Health Authority. Residents in Medicine Hat are attending a public hearing before City Council on Tuesday to voice their opinions on the state of the city's energy business. In fall of 2024, a third-party report recommended to City Council that an arm's-length corporation should be established to control the skyrocketing utility rates in the city. The municipal-controlled corporation would be run by a board and would cost between $4 and $5 million to set up. This will serve residents an opportunity to engage in public dialogue with council that wouldn't take place in a typical council meeting. City Council can make a decision anytime after public forum, and if approved, could take up to a year to establish the MCC. Taber police have arrested and charged a 37-year-old man from Lethbridge, accusing him of drug possession for trafficking purposes. Police say they stopped the man during a traffic stop on Wednesday morning who was known to have an outstanding warrant. TPS reportedly seizing over 63 grams of powdered cocaine, methamphetamine, crack cocaine, fentanyl, drug paraphernalia consistent with trafficking, and more than $3,700 in cash. The man, whose name remains unreleased, is charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking, 3 counts of possession of a controlled substance, and 1 count of possession of the proceeds of crime. He is to appear in court in Taber on July the 29th. The City of Lethbridge has launched an online public art survey. The initiative is part of the Public Art Master Plan, where the community provides feedback and suggestions on the future of public art in Lethbridge. Jillian Bracken is the Community Arts and Culture Manager with the City of Lethbridge.
So the city's public art program was established in 2009. First master plan was written in 2012. So it's been 13 years. A lot has changed in the city and within the program. So we began engagement with the public in April with a series of community activations and idea labs. And now we're launching a public survey and a community toolkit that can be accessed through the getinvolvedlethbridge.ca webpage, as well as a series of artist-led activations, which will see local artists engage the community in a variety of creative ways at different events like Canada Day at Henderson, at Whoop Up Days in August, and even here at Festival Square and within Galt Gardens as part of Foodie Fest. So those artist-led activations are really special. Some of them are walk and talk, some of them are bike tours, and the goal there, and we even have some Indigenous social dancing. The goal with those activations are to give people opportunities to talk about the public art that they know and love and what kinds of art they'd like to see in the future, including ideas for locations and different places that we could beautify the city.
To participate in the survey, you can visit getinvolvedlethbridge.ca. That is your Forum Daily West report. I'm Jeanette Roche. Thanks so much for watching.